Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative. If you saw the video where I made the big mold, and when I say big mold, as you would have seen in my video, big mold of the skull head. And it wouldn't be right if I weren't going to do a video on actually making the piece with a deep pour resin, obviously, because this thing is deep. I mean, as you can see by the sides, like we've got, and it goes to pretty much to the bottom. I've got 1/4 of an inch between the bottom and where the skull starts in there. So it is big, and I am not risking using a 2-part epoxy. We're using a deep pour on this. Yes, it's going to take 3 days to set. That's okay, because it is extremely important to me that this turn out decently. For this one, I am going to be leaving these parts in my video where you saw me make the mold, and when I cut it, I had to, cut through a fair thickness of, this is on the underside of his head, this sits on the bottom, and I'm leaving it in for a couple of reasons. One, because I truly want to see how this looks as I try and shove this back in. I want to see how this looks with it the way it's meant to be from an original standpoint. And then we'll go from there. Like if it's not really needed, fair enough, and I will look at cutting them out for future. But I didn't want to do that because once it's cut and it's gone, it's gone. I can't put it back in there. So I also, because it's so deep, I have funnels that I had bought for other, concepts and ideas I had. And what I thought about for this was, because again, it's so deep, that I would use the funnel to fill it up. Once I got to a certain point, it wouldn't matter. I would, I could take the funnel out. I can clean it all up. They're plastic. You can get those relatively cheap, even if I needed to replace it. And I guess the last thing is I am going to do this with, it's not going to be clear. So let me explain to you how I'm going to color this in. And then I'm going to set to coloring it in. Now, the one thing that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me, which I've come up with a plan, is it going to work? I'm not 100% sure, but I have to be able to open these sides up and, get in here. And I don't want to have to, do one side and the other. I kind of want it open like this. And hopefully you can see that well enough. So I can get in here with my 2 brushes that I'm going to be using to put in my colors. Because I'm going to put colors all around this. And I'll show you those in a minute. But for this, what I thought I could do is I'm going to use ribbon. I was going to use string, but string might cut into this. So I'm going to get some thicker pieces of ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap them around here. And then I'm hoping if I just stick them underneath, like if I take the ribbon and stick it underneath, it'll be enough to hold these out of the way on the side for me. So we'll see how that all works out. It's the only, other than that, I've got to try and get around these 2 parts, which will be a pain, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So that's sort of my plan for that. And when it comes to pouring this, I'm going to have to make sure that this is level in here, sort of lined up to the best as I can get it. Right, again, we're dealing with the bottom, so I'm not overly concerned. And definitely at the sides here. Again, it's the bottom, not a big deal. And then I can wrap a piece of ribbon or something around this just to hold it, if I have a concern over that, and maybe it pushing it out, which is fair. The other thing I want to mention, you will notice I have saran wrap on this. When I had taken out of the mold, again, if you had seen the video, you know what happened, but if you haven't, the sides were damp. The silicone, the green, had not completely cured. I figured that was because of what I had holding the silicone in place as I was pouring the mold. However, I was really fortunate. For the most part, it has dried out. I've left it sitting, and it has dried out, but there is still just a tiny little bit of stickiness to it. And that's why I've got the saran wrap on it. When I'm done making this piece, I'm going to take the saran wrap off and let it sit and air dry a little bit more. I'm not sure it will get completely not sticky, but it definitely is a lot better than it was when I took it out of the mold. So that's why we have the saran wrap on it. Okay, what am I going to do? For the resin, I am going to be using white neon powder by Let's Resin, Resin Max Titanium White by Elichem Resins, eye candy. Now, again, it's a gray, katana gray. Hopefully I've got that right. These are what I'm going to mix in with my resin. For the mica powders that I am going to be using to color this, I have posted on my Facebook page a skull that I had done, just a flat one, and the colors I used on it. Again, because I used a polyurethane to pour, the colors aren't as bright and vibrant as I want them to be. However, I'm hoping with what I mix in the resin, it will be. I am going to be using the eye candy akai tsuki red. I love the names. I just have a hard time with them. The red. Let's make this simple. I have a blue. We're going to keep this simple. I have a purple. Sunfire violet. If I can say the full name, I'm going to for you. These will all be listed in the description below. Crimson. And it's just got a really cool look to it. So let me go back. So we have a red. We have a violet. We have sort of, I call it, it's a bit of an eerie blue. I have a number of blues, and I thought this one would work well. We have this crimson, which I love. We have ninja black. And I have olive yellow. What I did when I did my skull was I mixed my colors into these little buckets. And the way I arranged the colors was I did the red and the black together. I did how did I do this? Sugar Plum Fairies. What did I do the two together? I think I did the purple and the crimson together, and I did the olive and the blue together. I really should have written this down. Would have been a good idea. I didn't, but that's okay. So in general, I'm going to just wipe these colors. I'm going to put them into the little containers, mix them up a little bit, and then I'm just going to start going willy-nilly around the inside of the skull to color it to the best of my ability. If it doesn't get completely covered, I don't really care, because I'm thinking it's a big skull. It's supposed to be ghoulish, gothic, and I figured using these colors I'll get sort of that thought. The eyes and sort of those parts I do want to get fairly well covered, but the rest of it is going to be what it is, and then having the colors in the resin will fill in the blanks, if you will. I wanted to put glitter tests with deep pour resin, sort of when to drop glitter and when to sort of mix it in, because we know that it's so liquidy and it takes a long time to set. I don't want all my glitter at the top of the, at the top of the skull. And therefore I'm not going to be putting any in this. I need to test sort of what hours you could put some in and sort of have it float in different spots. Ultrafine glitter may work, but that's where we are. Okay, I am not going to bore you with watching me do all this. I wanted you to know my colors. I wanted you to know how I was going to do this. And perhaps once I've got it all done, then what we'll do is we'll come back. I'll show you what I can, and I will let you know if, sort of pulling that back with a ribbon has worked for me. Anyway, once I get this covered the way I want, then we'll be back. I'll see you in a bit. I feel like this video is going to be more of a tell than a show. Anyway, I have gotten this covered with my 6 colors now. I did attempt to pull these back and tie them down, but that wasn't going to work. I couldn't do it. So I ended up having to pull this apart and, you know, do one side and then kind of do the other, and then back and forth I went with the colors. I turned it upside down. I tapped it on its sides at the bottom just to kind of, one, I really wanted to get any bulk, because you know sometimes you can get where if you don't rub it in well enough, you can get little granules floating to the top and whatnot in your resin. And again, I can see that happening more with a deep pour. Anyway, I have, you know, got all my colors in it, which is great. And the next thing I had to do, oh, okay, I guess going back to this, yeah. So I couldn't pull it back. I wasn't going to be able to hold it. When I was trying to wrap the string around it, you know, maybe I wasn't doing it properly and whatnot, but I ended up just holding things open like this with my hands and then going in with the brushes. And like I say, I think I've got pretty decently covered. And as I said, I figured the colors that I'm going to mix in with the resin is going to help with any spots that we might have, because I, you know, missed it. And the big thing for me was, and I've got my skull head here so you can see it again, the eyes. So imagine that this is where I start working. So the protruding part of the eyes on the underside, I was having issues getting the nose. That was easily done. This area was done, like some of it, but the eye sockets, the bottom of them, which, you know, you may or may not see. I'm not, again, you know, not having done this before, and it being a really big mold, big skull head here. I think what's going to really help with it is if I have missed spots, then having color in the resin itself is going to help fill in any of the gaps. You know, we're not going to know until we get this out, are we, how well this is going to turn out and whether or not this was a much bigger endeavor than, you know, even I thought it was. I mean, the fact that the silicone mold is worked out is beautiful in and of itself, but now we have to make it. So this is my challenge for you. I have measured this head a few times. I have done my best to measure within the mold, and I have done a number of calculations on the amount of deep pour resin I'm going to need for this. I did buy, what have I got? How much resin have I got? I did write it down just so we knew. So the bottles I bought, part A is 3.78 liters and part B is 1.89 liters. And I've done some math. I'm not going to tell you. I have done some math of what I believe it's going to take to fill this up. I am going a little under because I really don't want to end up with extra. And the great thing with deep pour is that I can keep adding to it, and I have a 6-hour working time with it, which is brilliant, because then I'm not going to feel rushed if I have to make some more up. And I will kind of keep track of how much product I'm putting in the resin itself, but again, I don't think it's going to matter, because again, it's going to give it that eerie look if I do have to mix up some more. I am not going to tell you how much I'm mixing up. You can guesstimate on your own what you think it's going to take to fill this mold for a piece this size, which is kind of unfair because I know how big this is, but I mean, it's a big skull. So, you know, my hand, it's big, okay? But I'd like you to comment and tell me what you think it would take, and then we'll find out how close or how far off the mark I am with the first batch I make. I've also got, I was trying to think, so what are you going to do if you need to get out another mold? I do have some big molds around here that I will have out, and knowing I have time to pour them. Now, the only unfortunate part about that is the color is going to be totally off for the other pieces, but that's okay. And I will make sure I have tables set up to balance things out, because again, I'm not going to be able to keep everything in one place. I'm going to have to spread things out. So I have to make up some resin. I have to get a pot to put my resin in, because none of my mixing cups are big enough. And when I've got that all done and ready to go, we will be back. Are you ready for the fun to begin? Oh my gosh, people, this project is one of those projects that's a little nerve-wracking. I have done so much organizing to get to the point of actually starting to pour resin into this huge skull mold. I have made up, and I'm not telling you how much I've made up of resin so far, deep pour for sure. There is absolutely no way I would be able to do this with any other, like, I have to use deep pour. There's no way I could do it otherwise, because things would have been curing, flash curing, blah, 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 blah. So as much as this is going to take 3 days to set up, I don't really care. This has got to go well. Okay, I have, you'll see this great big white container. I'm doing that for safety reasons. If by any chances there is some way for a liquid to flow out of this, I want it to go into a container that I can take care of versus it running onto my floor. So that would be a tip I would give you if you're going to do something this big and you haven't tried, a liquid in your mold, yet. You may want to do something like this. I have a table set up in another room. If I have too much resin, then I have a table set up. I've got one mold set aside so far. I have another one that I can go to. And I have to admit, what I love, 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 love about the deep pour is I am not rushed. I am calm, cool, and collect at this point. I have mixed up my resin. I have got the color in it. I'm going to show you sort of what it looks like. And now, how am I going to get it into the mold? I have decided, and if this, starts to go sideways, then I'll stop, but I have a funnel. I'm trying to think how to get into line here. I lifted my camera up so you could see the mold. So we're going to start like this. I am obviously going to be holding this. I'm not going to let the weight go. I thought this might be a good way to start to fill it up instead of it just pouring in, just pouring in. So we're going to do that. I have also put a ribbon, a string around this just to hold this together a little bit more. Is it tight, tight? No, it's not, but I feel it's going to be sufficient enough for what I want. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I've done? 3 colors, and I actually added some white mica powder by Magic Resin. I wasn't sure I was going to have enough of the paste, the Elichem pigment paste. I decided to bring in some white mica powder as well. Anyway, we need to get started. I'm probably not going to show you filling up. If I run out of the amount I've made, I will let you know. But we're going to do a pour. I am putting what I've made into this measuring cup. I have a couple bubbles on top, so let's get rid of those. I can't say for sure whether my idea of using this funnel is a good idea or not, but hey, I'm going to try. So, and then once I've got this full, this will be sitting here for 1 full day because I know it's first 6 hours before it starts to sort of cure up. And well, my cure timing up is already started, but anyway, so let's see how we can do this. Yeah, let's just be very careful. Hopefully you can see. Am I in? Let me lift my camera up a little bit more for you. Hopefully I can pull that up just a little bit more so you can see. Yeah, let's do that. Hopefully not too wobbly. And let's get pouring. I figured if I put it into, the measuring cup, so I got to be gentle with this, right? I just get pouring too fast and it's going to clog up the, maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know. So let me lift this up a little bit more. I'm not sure why it would be plugging up, and then I'll clean this out to the best of my ability. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'll try and turn it this way for you. As I say, I've kind of guesstimated what I think it's going to take. And hopefully I haven't like totally messed up. The number that I was given on the Magic Resin website, I just thought, I don't know. That's an awful lot of resin, people. It's an awful lot of resin, so I'm trying to sort of gauge it. And I am definitely going to measure. Whatever's left over, I'm going to measure because I want to know for future how much of this stuff I need. Okay, so that's one done. How's it looking in there? Hard to say. It's dark in there. So I'm going to pour some more. I'll do one more of these pours with you, and then I am going to let you go. And I'm going to finish up and try not to make too much of a mess at the far end of my table here, which I'm, sort of doing. But, hey, messes happen. I've got a paper towel down on my table to soak things up. I may have to replace that at some point, but that's okay too, right? That's why I said I was preparing this. I moved as much as I could, because I thought you've got to be organized, and you've got to feel, I don't want to say safe. I just needed to know I was, properly getting things organized for today for this pour, which is incredibly important to me. And the color, I didn't really show you the color, did I? So give me a second here. And let me get that into, it's a pretty light gray. But it's kind of got that, I'm hoping with the colors that I put on this piece, anyways, that it'll make it look really cool. Okay, let's just get the rest of that poured in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I will bring you back once I have this full, or hopefully have it full, and hopefully what I've made up is sufficient, because as I say, I really don't want to make up anymore, and I will be shocked if what I have here, I'm thinking it's too much, but you never know. But it's filling up nicely in there. So when I have this done and filled up, I will bring you back. See you then. Hey there. I just wanted to bring you back now that I have filled up the mold. No leaking happening, which is brilliant. I did end up putting, if you'll notice, a paper towel roll on one side and a silicone cup on the other. I think because of the resin, it was pushing this apart a little bit, and I thought, let's just push it back together. I don't think it would make a huge difference, but I thought, well, if you can support it from the sides a little bit, let's do that. I will say that I used a lot less resin, of the deep pour resin, than I thought I was going to. And I was getting closer to the top. I went, well, these calculations were totally out to lunch. So that may be an indication for you. I'm not going to tell you until I take this thing out of the mold how much I actually ended up using. I'm thankful that I had other molds that I could use to, use up the remainder, because, you don't want to be wasting that kind of resin. And, it's a decent price, the deep pour resin that I buy from Magic Resin. So, I mean, you just don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste it. Anyway, I have a few math calculations to do. But at the end, when we take this out, I'll let you know. But I am curious if you can put in the comments below what you think. I know I mentioned that earlier, how many, mils you thought this would take to fill it up. It's a bit deceiving because of the size of the skull itself. Anyway, now we wait. It will sit here for at least 24 to 48 hours. I'm actually thinking if I just let it sit here for the 3 days, that gives me a little bit of a break from doing things. But videos need to keep coming out. I hope you're as excited as I am to have this be fully done. and us being able to take this out, and my fingers are crossed. I mean, I did my measurements to the best of my ability. One thing I would like to ask, if any of you have a scale that you use for weighing, what is the brand of the scale? I ended up not using my scale to measure out the resin parts because it wasn't matching up with the cup, and I thought, no, let's go with the cup instead. So I used the lines on the cup to do my measurements with. But I am curious, if you're using a scale, what you use for, and are you liking it, and do you find that it is reliable? Anyway, we wait. It won't be a wait for you. It's going to be a 3-day wait for me. I want to make sure this thing is fully cured before we even think. And then once we get this out, maybe what I'll do is I'll show you the other 2 pieces I did first to give you an idea of just how much resin I actually made. It'll be moments for you, 3 days for me. We'll see you when it's ready to take out of the mold. Bye for now. I'm back. It has been a long 3 days for me, and yet only moments for you. Earlier in the video, I had indicated I made a little bit too much of the deep pour resin, so I ended up having to make some other pieces. What we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces. I've got 3 pieces to take out of their molds. The number 1 being my skull over here, this one. You'll notice in front of me I have what looks like a Christmas tree, and it is. This is a mold. When did I make this? Did I make this last year sometime? Probably. I don't think it's 2 years old. Anyways, I made it. Not full scale. I didn't have enough resin for that. I also made, and I'll bring this here to you, this one, which is our planter, and most importantly, the skull. Now, I'm going to sort of move my Christmas tree off to the side. Again, I think I'm going to have to take these out of the molds off camera because they're a bit of a challenge. So I want to move my tree for a moment. That thing weighs a ton too. It's like, as I said, when I made it, I said, go big or go home. This is heavy, very heavy. And I think the most important thing, which I found really interesting, was that I had that filled. I'm just going to tip it on side because we know we can. So it's not up to the top anymore. Like, this shrunk more than I expected it to be totally honest with you. Now, because it's set, I just kind of want to run my finger. It's set quite a bit, and I don't know exactly at what point it sort of started to recede, and it's probably as it was starting to set. I'm not sure even if I'd kept some of the resin behind if I would have gotten it poured within the 6-hour window to make it be okay. So it's going to be interesting. I have faith that this is going to be okay. But I found that interesting that it had done that. So we're going to take the string off because we don't need it anymore. And we'll see how we did. Again, I think I'm going to have to do this off camera. I really would love to try and yank it out of the mold on camera. The only thing is, when I took the original mold out of it, I mean, I had to kind of get quite, I don't want to say vicious with it, but it was a challenge to get out. And I know you're all looking forward to it, and I had posted on my Facebook page that you guys were going to get to see this before my people on Facebook were going to get to see it, because I thought that was only fair. So we're really going to hope that we can get this out no problems, right? That's the goal here, is that we get it out. So I'm going to I say very carefully as I rip it apart. It's silicone, right? So let's see what we've got so far. Again, we got some resin there. Let's see what I can show you so far. So can you see? I hope that's a good picture. It's sort of grayish. I can see some color on it, so that's great. I may have little spots where I have silicone that I have to sort of, pull or yank out. I do have, and I'll show you once I get it out, but where this crisscrosses, I'm seeing some of that down on the underside of the skull, but I'm kind of thinking, does that really matter? I'm really hoping there won't be an issue. Now, the one thing I had wondered about was where these holes were in the side, whether or not I'd get some resin cover. And even if I do, I should be able to drill that out. But looking good so far. Let's pull the top of this apart. Sort of getting that out. Oh, I can't. I'm like you. I'm sort of sitting on pins and needles wondering about this. I should probably take my saran wrap off, but because I'm, you know, going to have to. So I think what we're going to do is I refund this. And literally, that's what you're going to have to do. If you were here, that's what we'd have to do. We'd have to really pull on this hard. I think this is going to look neat, people. I'm getting the, like you can see the design on it. So that's brilliant. The base here is going to have to be sanded down for sure. Because it's got some, and I'm going to have some other little spots I have to fix up, but I think we're going to be okay. So I'm just going to throw that off to the side just for a moment, because I am going to have to, you know, take my time getting that out. Let's see how this turned out. And it was kind of interesting too, granted I had these in another room, that I think it took the tree and this pot longer. And I know you're going, can you just skip those two? We don't care. We just want to see the skull. But what was the other thing I did with this? I put alcohol inks in it, both the tree and this. Getting this out is challenging. So I'm wondering if that sort of had a bit of an issue with the curing of the pieces, the other two pieces. I'm not sure. So this is what it looks like. This should be relatively easy to get out. And yeah, so of course it's got the matte look to it, which isn't a big deal. Well, it looks it looks more cool on the inside than it does on the outside. So that's what the inside of this looks like. Can you see it? Again, I know, you don't care. Can you just get back to the skull? Okay. So this looks kind of cool, actually. The only thing I'm not really fussy about is right here. Okay, so we have some marks here. Can you see? Yeah, so my finger's going right there. And on this side as well. So I should have been a little bit more careful with it. But it's kind of got that Borealis kind of look to it, which is neat. So I'm not sure. I'll have to figure out something to maybe cover it, but that's pretty. I do like that. That came out nice. Okay, you don't care. I get it. Get to the skull. Get to the skull. Get to the skull. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take the tree out and I'm going to get the skull out of here. And then I'm going to come back. I'll show you the tree first because, you know, we got to do the tree first just to get it out of the way. And then I will show you the skull. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because I know a lot of people want to see how this turned out. Be right back. Well, I think I've learned how to take the skull out of the mold now. And you'll notice I've gone from pink to blue gloves. I kind of did some damage to the pink ones and my hands were getting hot, so I decided to take them off. And I put the blue ones on. You'd almost think I was dealing with $1 million, you know, piece of art here, which, you know, maybe to somebody is worth $1 million. I've seen pieces of art that aren't as cool as mine, you know, in the past. Anyway, here is my tree. It took a bit of pulling. I had to actually put some alcohol, rubbing alcohol sprayed into the mold to get it out. So if you can imagine, because of the shape of it and because of the size of the inside, like this was silicone on the inside here. So, I mean, I had to really reef on this. So when I got it out, I put it down flat and I pushed it to flatten it back down because I felt like I was maybe, twisting it up the wrong way. Anyway, this is a tree that I think has a lot of potential to it. I haven't done a lot with the ones I've made. I've got 2 so far, and I want to do more because I think they'd make a really cool decoration at Christmas time. So, putting that aside. Now, I know the skull's over here. You're waiting to see it. I want to know how much. I know I had asked earlier how much resin you thought it would take. I did the math. I finally figured out approximately how much I needed. I made way too much. That's why we've got the extra pieces here. I would really love to know below. At the very end of this video, I'm going to tell you how much it took. So at least I know for next time, which is brilliant, right? You want to know so you're not having to make extra pieces. All right, I'm not going to hold you in suspense anymore. And here it is. So I want to lower it down. I've turned off one of my lights, which is really bright. I'm just wanting to get the right amount of light on this guy. So hopefully you can see the mica powders that I had used my makeup brushes to get on the inside of the mold. So we had the red and the black. We had the purple and pink I put together, and then the green. Now, there's not a lot, like the green's not showing up. There's some that you can maybe see in there. There's a little bit more. It didn't get, well, maybe it got some attention, but so here you go, people. This is your skull. I think it turned out pretty cool. For a first kick at the can, this thing, yeah, I'd say it weighs about 5 pounds anyway. I'm not sticking it on my scale. I think it's way too heavy for that. And then, like, so the eyes have me wondering if I should put anything in the eyes just to, I don't know, make it look more eerie. I mean, I have small skulls that I could put inside the eyes. Anyways, I'll look at that off camera. But yeah, so here we go. We'll show you the underside. So I don't know how much I actually lost. I mean, on the original that I was casting this from, I mean, this weave was all over it, but we don't have it here. I have to do some sanding in here to clean that up. These holes that are at the side, I'm not sure if you can see, I have some cleaning up to do, more so on this side. You'll notice it's going to take me probably drilling, well, maybe not. Maybe I can use my X-Acto knife to get, but I have some cleaning up on this side to do. I definitely have to get rid of the sharpness. I mean, there's some pretty sharp places. Now, I do have and did get an air bubble here, because on this side we're fine. On this side I've got an air bubble. There's no way I can fill it with UV resin, but that's not going to matter. So let's see where else, because hopefully, I don't think I got, which is brilliant, any air bubbles. Now I do have, I don't know if the original has it, but I have a bit of an indentation here, and I don't know if that is on the original. And even if it is, it doesn't matter. But I don't think, I'm trying to do it slow, but I'm trying to see if I have any air bubbles anywhere else, which is brilliant if I don't. I have a little bit of silicone that needs to be cleaned up too, but that's nothing major. But yeah. So, I turned off one light to maybe make it better for you to see it. Again, color-wise, I've got the one light. Okay, just spinning it around again for you. The red definitely jumps out. The purple definitely jumps out. I've got some blue here, the green, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. Was it worth the wait? Are you happy that you got to see the actual finished product? I am. Like I said, I have some work to do on it. But all in all, and I might, you know what? I might just see if my small skulls that I've done would fit in the eyes. That might look kind of cool, you know? Anyway, there you have it. So, this puppy, are you ready for this? I mixed up 2010 approximate mils of resin to make this guy. And I went on and I used a calculator. Way too much, obviously way too much. It took about 1,200 mils with what I was left over with, ballparking it, it took about 1,200 mils to make this. A lot less. And interestingly enough, I'd kind of thought around 1,000 mils when I you know, was going to go ahead. So about 1,200 would do it and get it. Yeah. So I'm curious to know how close any of you were. I'll find that out if you comment and whatnot. So I'm going to just pop away. I want to go get a couple of my small little skulls just so you can see what I'm thinking. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Okay, so the skulls that I've already made, I do have smaller ones, and they're hidden somewhere in my world. But sort of imagine, if you will, I'm going to just sort of take this very carefully, and if you could see, I don't know if that's going to work. I kind of want to get my hand out of the way. I hope you can see that. That's probably not a good color, is it? I'm not zooming in enough. These guys are bigger though. But I'm just trying to get your imagination going about having a skull inside the skull eyes. As I say, I have some smaller ones, but to go searching for them, yeah, you wouldn't see this video for a while. So, and the other thing I'm kind of looking at too is whether you put, give me a second, get my tweezers out here so I can get my big blue hands out of the way. All right. So if you did something like this in the eyes, did the bones crisscross. Now granted, these guys are a little too big too, but I mean, there's potential for doing, or you just leave it and you don't do anything, or I wonder about just coating it with a shimmer paint or something like that, just to give like a sparkle to the eyes, or you just leave it and you do absolutely nothing. Okay, so I think there are possibilities with the eyes. The nose I'd leave exactly the way it is, but the eyes I think lend themselves because they are so big. Like those are massive, massive eyes. Anyway, so we have a 1,200 mil skull that weighs, I mean, there's some weight to this. I'd say around 5 pounds to that. We got a Christmas tree out of it. We got another planter out of it. And the last thing I want to cover with you, and it's in regards to the video I had done. Let's put this guy off to the side. Careful. 2 hands. You lift that guy with 2 hands. Okay. This piece that I had done in one of my previous, you will notice it's kind of curved now. And I hadn't realized until, you know, I sort of started realizing different color silicones had a different bend potential. So this is not flat anymore. I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to see if I can fix this, and I don't know if I can. I did make pieces, but I had to place something on top of it to hold it down so it was flat. I don't know whether I can take, you know, some of that silicone out, like with an X-Acto knife or something like that, to get it to sit flat, and maybe it won't. But I wanted to point that out. So if you're going to do something like this, I would say make sure you have the right silicone. And my Let's Resin might have been a better silicone to use. I mean, this stuff is really, this red Alumalite, I mean, it's a pretty, it's probably a high number versus a low, really pliable silicone. And a better bet might have been the Let's Resin to use in this because of the mold itself. So I'm just pointing that out, and I just wanted to let you know, and I'm going to see if I can't find some way to fix this up a little bit, or am I constantly going to have to put something on it just to, you know, get it flat again in the middle. So I just wanted to point that out to you if any of you are planning on doing it. I still think it's a really cool idea. I just feel that you have to use the right silicone if you're going to do this. So hopefully I can do something to kind of get that pushed down, or at least some way when I'm using it, have it that it's more flat. And I don't know if having another piece of silicone under it is going to work or whatnot. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. We've talked about the amount of silicone it took to make Mr. Skull, so I can throw that piece of paper out. I've told you about this. You've seen the other pieces I've made. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This was a really cool project, a very intense project to have taken on. And again, I mean, my tree is big, but this is sort of a really unique and cool thing to have done. Anyway, I'd love to know your comments on this. I hope you've found this an interesting video. And thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and commenting. And now I have no idea what my next video is going to be about because I feel like I've hit the ceiling, but we'll come up with something. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber. I hope you're having a great day. Take care and bye for now.